What's up, YouTube? JM Comics here, and I saw The Batman 2022 by Matt Reeves this weekend on Sunday. And here are my thoughts and opinions on it, and they don't really differ much from the popular consensus, but I have a few of my own takes. So here goes nothing. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment down below your thoughts on The Batman, and I guess your ranking of the Batman movies. I'm not sure if I'll do a ranking on the movies, but I do have some Dark Knight videos coming up about the Dark Knight trilogy. So we'll see what happens. And let's get right into it, okay? And first off, the biggest thing that sticks out to me about this movie is kind of the framing device or the plot for this movie. It's very murder mystery, detective-y, serial killer related, and that's a new type of plot device, plot frame for the live-action Batman movies. And it really draws on Batman's greatest detective title, because the original Batman movies, or like the Michael Keaton ones, were kind of dark, but in like a Tim Burton way. And then the Joel Schumacher ones were trash. Let's be honest here; they're just very cartoony and trash. Batman Forever is okay, but Batman and Robin is terrible. The Dark Knight trilogy was very great. It was like amazing. Okay, probably the best movies in the superhero genre ever made, in my opinion. Like all three of them, even The Dark Knight Rises. But they were definitely action movies first and foremost. This is the first time a live action Batman movie has actually been completely themed around Batman being a detective and the mystery element of Batman's lore, which we haven't really gotten before. So it's great to see it like this. And the movie takes many cues from the Telltale Batman series. I don't know if many people have like picked up on that, like the Thomas and Martha Wayne stuff, and like I said, the detective stuff is definitely present in the Telltale series. So I like to see that those games kind of get lost of their plots and plot points brought into this movie. And what sticks out to me next is the villains in this movie, which are all very realistic takes on Batman classics, which is amazing. I love how all the Batman villains, or most of them, besides like Clayface and Man-Bat, really fit into the real world. I like how they really ground all the bad guys in this movie, specifically the Riddler, who's normally very cartoonish, like the Joker, and he feels a lot like a Joker ripoff. In this movie, they made him feel like a serial killer, and they kept the obsessive trait that he's always had with Bruce Wayne, like the Jim Carrey one was obsessed or whatever. They kept that with this one, but it still feels realistic, and it's not so much of the crazy sort of let's play some games, let's play tricks on each other. It's more of a serial killer, I'm leaving clues for you kind of thing, and I really like the way he did that. The Penguin in this movie is also really great. I mean, he's just kind of a gangster, but he's the best gangster in this movie. There are others. There's like Falcone and stuff. I don't like this Falcone that much, but he's passable, okay? And I like how Catwoman doesn't really have a cat suit like she has in other versions. She's just more like a normal petty thief who's trying to go out for herself, basically. The actors in this movie did a really great job for the most part. I think Jeffrey Wright, Zoe Kravitz, and Colin Farrell all deliver amazing performances. Like Jeffrey Wright, I wasn't exactly sure that, like as a comedian, I wasn't really sure he could pull off a Jim Gordon, Commissioner Gordon vibe, but he really did. I think he was an amazing performance in this movie. Zoe was great, and she pulled off previous Catwoman actresses with her performance. Like, she pulled off parts of Michelle Pfeiffer, parts of Anne Hathaway. I don't know if she's the best Catwoman, but I mean, she really delivered as Catwoman. It was good. And Colin Farrell was completely unrecognizable in all that prosthetics and makeup. And even his voice, his accent was like perfect, spot on. You could barely tell it was Colin Farrell under all that makeup, and that just shows how good of a performance it was. I'd argue the best performance was Colin Farrell, but Jeffrey Wright definitely gave him a run for his money. I didn't mind Robert Pattinson's Batman as much as most people did. A lot of critics have been saying that Robert Pattinson is really bad at like being Batman. And okay, his Batman voice is better than Christian Bale's, even though that never really bothered me. And as Bruce Wayne, he's not even close to Christian Bale's performance, but he still delivered a good performance, all things considered. He was just a more introverted, less playboyish, less eccentric version of Bruce Wayne, which doesn't really work with Batman that much. But I mean, this is the first movie, and by the end of the movie, he learns he has to be a good Bruce Wayne as well as a good Batman. So we'll see what happens in the future. I think they'll definitely fix this Bruce Wayne over time, inevitably in the next sequel or two. The cinematography on this movie is breathtaking. Like, look at the car scene from the trailers and in the movie, obviously. And then look at like him on the rooftop of Catwoman. All the lighting, all the shots are so perfect. They're so beautiful, like the Dark Knight trilogy's shots were. And additionally, like the Dark Knight trilogy, the themes are deep and profound compared to most superhero fare. Like, I was just praising Peacemaker last week or like 2 weeks ago on the channel, But if I'm being completely honest here, Peacemaker doesn't have as many deep themes or like core messages as something as serious like the Batman. So I really think it's one of the deeper superhero fairs, and that makes me feel like I haven't exactly wasted my time watching this. Not to say I've wasted my time on other superhero movies, which I mean, let's be honest, I have on some, but it definitely makes you feel like I really got something out of coming to the theater today. You know what I'm trying to say? So yeah. The one complaint I have for this movie, the real complaint, is the ending. The ending went on for far too long, and like for the last 40 minutes, I kept checking my watch. I wasn't as engaged as I was before, and I really think when the Riddler got caught, they should have started wrapping things up a little bit more. Like, I understand what they were trying to do, and the flooding thing makes sense. It's from the comics, but they could have tried to do it in a more spectacular way. I mean, I know it's Batman. He's not supposed to be spectacular. The Dark Knight, arguably the best superhero movie of all time, best movie of all time in some people's books, had not the most action-packed climax, but I mean, there was so much social pressure, so much greediness to the ending. Like Two Face on that building was a really deep scene. The Joker of those two theories, it was a very philosophical, psychological scene. This movie just doesn't really have that. There's not really a climax in this movie. Like the movie was trying to climax throughout, like it was building up to a climax, but it never really delivered on a satisfying climax. Come to the end of the movie, there was the whole Riddler thing, but I just didn't think that was the multiple Riddler thing. I don't really think that was a great payoff to all that anticipation and build up that we'd been getting up to that point. However, I will say this one thing: the Joker definitely saved the ending for me. Like the Joker at the end was a really nice tease and redeemed what would have otherwise been a very dissatisfying ending. Like I think if the movie was 30 minutes shorter, like they cut the last 30 minutes off and they just like worked an ending there, it might have beaten out like it might have been one of the best superhero movies of all time. But as it stands, that ending really sort of soured me on the experience. I had to really think back afterwards on how good the beginning and middle were to redeem the ending. Because the ending, it wasn't a bad ending. It was just a really drawn out, unnecessary feeling ending. And to wrap things up, as I put it right now, I'd say this movie's below the entire Dark Knight trilogy, which I know many people hate Rises, but I really like The Dark Knight Rises, and I think this movie wasn't as good as that. But I still fairly enjoyed this movie. Like I said, if it ended 30 minutes earlier, it might have beaten out at least one of those movies. But as it stands, I prefer the Nolan movies. But this movie is still great. Definitely worth seeing. And on my scale, for entertainment, I'll give it an A, a solid A. If it wasn't for the ending, I would have given it an A+. But before that ending, the whole movie was so gripping, even though it was like 3 hours long, or supposed to be 2.5 hours long, or whatever. I was gripped entirely throughout until the last 30 minutes. So it was very gripping compared to something like Eternals or Avengers Endgame, which had their slow parts. With Eternals, the whole thing was a really slow part. But you know what I'm trying to say here? The Batman, overall, was an entertaining movie. So I'd give it a solid A on entertainment. In terms of quality, I'm going to have to give it a 10 out of 10. Like, maybe from preference, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. But I really enjoyed it. And I really think it made most of the right decisions that a movie like this should make. And it definitely lived up to the original Dark Knight trilogy. Or not the original, but you know what I'm trying to say. The previous incarnation of Batman in the solo movie, the Dark Knight trilogy. So I'd definitely say it's a 10 out of 10, A+. Or 10 out of 10, A. Go watch it if you can. If not, I mean, you can wait till it comes home so you can skip through the ending. Or at least, you know, be able to eat and snack while watching it instead of going to the movie theater. So as it stands, great movie. Go check it out. JM Comics out.